Hey everyone, this is Audio Dread, and as a lot of you may know, there's very big news in the world of Audacity. It has been obtained by Muse Group, which means that MuseScore, the guy who runs that, is also now running Audacity. There's been some very big announcements on what's going to change within the program. The most exciting of which to me is there's going to be plugin trees that are non-destructive. So basically, as it is currently, if I were to generate, let's just say I generated some white noise and I applied, we don't need a full minute of that. Let's say I generated just 10 seconds of white noise, and let's say I put a pulse stretch on that, and then let's say I put a reverb on that, and then let's say I went ahead and slowed that down, and then I decided, obviously that sounds horrible, but I decided, I'm listening to that and I decided, actually I would rather this have not been pulse stretched. Well, I can't now take the pulse stretch out of the chain or move it somewhere else in the chain. I have to undo all of the work that I just did and then do the first steps again without the pulse stretch. And so for it to have an actual tree like you would have in some premium DAWs, some more expensive DAWs like Pro Tools, Reaper, etc., is huge because it just takes so much time off of your workflow. I can't tell you how many times I've had to, go up into the history bar and figure out where I made the mistake, and then I have to memorize everything that I've done so that I can redo it because all of this just gets destroyed. And then if you save it and come back, then it's all lost forever. So that's amazing, but what I want to do today is I want to talk about some of the things that I would love to see be put into Audacity going forward. So I'm actually, I'm not going to worry too much about the analyzers, tools, etc. I'm going to be focusing mainly on effects here because that's what I use the most, and I want to look at this from a sound design standpoint because Audacity as a sound design DAW is less popular. Obviously it's not something that's super commonly used for, and because there is a community for it and I'm trying to build a community for it, I want to make sure that we're not forgotten about going forward. So I'm just going to kind of go down the list here. Pitch shift, it obviously, some of these things like bass and treble, they're pretty much just what they are, but changing pitch, it could be revamped a little bit. I think that as it is, it causes a little too much artifacting. You have to be really careful with it. Actually, here's what I'll say is, for the most part, I will actually slow a sound down and then tempo shift it back up because that often changes the pitch better with less distortion than the actual change pitch tool. So I would love to see some updates to that. Speed is great, the tempo shift is great. The compressor could definitely be a little bit better. It could have some more tools, it could explain itself a little bit better. I've been using it a little more, I've been learning it a little bit better, but here, let's just put a wah-wah on this. So as you can see, it's clipping some places and really quiet at others. The compressor is supposed to kind of just flatten it out a little bit. I just kind of, if you leave it at, this is just the default, it just, it doesn't do, let's see, let's make the threshold, I've just seen compressors that could really bring the middle up a lot more. And granted, I haven't messed with this that much, but I really feel like it could explain itself a little bit better. Let's see, I think that needs to be down a bit more. Like, I'm just trying to get it to really flatten it out. And it does okay, I just feel like it leaves a bit to be desired. I've had to do some crazy things to make up for the way that it functions. I don't actually know what those settings do, but yeah, I would like to see this updated a little bit. I feel like it's not terrible, but I feel like it could be going forward as good as some more professional quote unquote DAWs out there. So that would be nice. What happens if I turn that on? There we go. So, you know, I could get about the result that I wanted with it, but I do feel like I could have a little bit less extreme with that and maybe just make it a little bit easier to modify. It's not bad, but it could be better. So next, Distortion. I would love to see a complete revamp on this. These are, from a sound design perspective, almost useless. They all do almost the same thing, and that thing is to just make it horrible, crackling, popping, just, it's not good. I have used this in the 7 years I've been using Audacity. I've used Distortion 5 or 6 times, and it's taken me forever to get the perfect settings. I've had to apply it over and over again, so a complete revamp on the distortions would be amazing. Echo is fine, it works great, it's just an echo. Fade in and fade out, I would love to see those get some ability to modify them. Right now they're just a preset, and yes, you have adjustable fade, and you can do pretty much the same thing with that, but if you're going to have fade in and fade out plugins, just being able to set a timer on how quickly they fade in and fade out would be really nice. Filter curve is great. It's a perfectly fine EQ. I think having some more presets added to it, or some more ways to kind of create a roll-off or curve without having to add a ton of points, would be nice. Invert, pretty straightforward. The noise reduction is great. That is one of my favorite plugins in Audacity when you're dealing with just your like voiceover and things like that. Like, let's say we took some white noise and then we generated just a 300 hertz sawtooth. No, let's go with sine tone. Bring these down so that I don't hurt anybody. So now if I were to go to, actually let's grab some white noise first, just for demonstration purposes, get noise profile on that, and then let's actually we'll set these both back to 0 and we'll mix and then normalize. Obviously this is not going to sound good because it's a really dramatic example, but it helps if you select everything. Mix and render, normalize, and then let's just, oh no, it should still be there. Yeah. Hit OK on that. Actually, I should play it first. So as you can see, that sounds horrible, and I'm sure this isn't going to sound good, but let's just do that again. You can definitely hear the tone more, and considering the extremeness of just throwing a bunch of white noise over a single, 300 hertz tone. it's pretty amazing how well that actually works when you abuse it. So that's great. No complaints there. Normalize, it works fine. It does what it's supposed to do. Now on to Paul Stretch. If you do anything to Paul Stretch, I will find where you live. I will come to your home. Anyway, so phaser works fine. I think that having multiple choices for a phaser would be nice, because I've seen some in other DAWs that work a little bit better, but at the same time, you can always import a VST, third-party one. I have no complaints for the phaser plugin. I've used it quite a bit in my recent Jumping Jacks is a game I've been sound designing for, and it's got very much like a utopian cyberpunk feel, and so I've used a lot of phaser for that. It works really well. Repair, it works great. It's the inability to grab a large sample size gets frustrating, but it's also kind of necessary to keep the performance requirements of Audacity low, and it's a perfectly fine trade-off in my opinion. Repeat does what it's supposed to do. Reverb. So I have such mixed feelings about the Audacity reverb, because if you want an ordinary reverb, it's terrible. It is just, you have to tweak the settings so much not to have my signature like huge long metallic tail at the end of it. However, if you would like a reverb that will alter the fabric of space and time, then this is amazing. So I don't want this reverb to change at all, but I would like a secondary reverb to be added that's a little less just completely off the rails. Like, just, I'm just gonna do this again and generate some silence at the end, and just the I'm gonna do what I say to never do just to show how insane it is, and click the wet only mark. And then here, let's just... Like, just from doing that, we altered the way that this waveform works. We altered the shape, we altered the where it peaks. Like, you can do some weird stuff with that reverb, and I love it. So I don't want this one to change. I just want a second one to be added that's a little more normal. Reverse, I love that there's just a simple reverse plugin, because some DAWs don't have that, and it's nice to be able to just quickly do that. Sliding stretch, in my opinion, leaves a lot to be desired. If you say we just take this and we alter it, let's say 6 semitones, half an octave. Actually, I do not want to bring it up 6 semitones, because that's going to sound even worse than regular white noise. Let's just do -6. It takes forever to apply also, but I imagine that if it was made better, it would take even longer, so I'm not going to complain about that. And when you change pitch and tempo at the same time, it's fine, which I understand that just when you change pitch without changing tempo, you're gonna have a little bit of artifacting, but I do feel like it could just be a little better. I'm not sure how well you can hear that, but it just has this weird rumbling distortion in the background, and it does that to everything that I use it on, unless I get the perfect settings and I apply it multiple times and then I add reverb and all of this stuff. I know some artifacting is inevitable, but it does seem higher than it should be. You can hear it a lot better right there. It also it's on a bit too much of an exponential curve. So there's very little change for a while, and then there's a lot of change at the end. And that's fine, but it would be nice if there was just a setting where you could adjust how it curves. So I would like to see those changes to that. Truncate Silence, I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't even know what that does. I have never used it before. Yeah. So I can't comment on it. Maybe it's really useful. I have literally never in my 7 years of using Audacity even touched that plugin. Adjustable fade is fine. I think that it could be explained a little bit better, possibly, but you can go to the manual and everything. It's a little wonky sometimes. I think that it could be looked at because I think that there might be some kind of bug there, but it's hard to completely tell. Clip fix, it's, I can't criticize because, not that. I don't know of any clip fixes that are really all that good, but let's just make this. That's got a ton of clipping. Here, let's. Oh, that's fine. That's a pretty general amount. So let's just clip fix. We'll just leave it at the default. So actually, I mean, that did a pretty good job. I think that if you have really bad audio, like your mic was just too hot or whatever, then it's just, you're not going to have a good time no matter what. So I think, well, unless it's just because it hadn't, I'm not going to read too far into it. I could record something that's clipping because maybe it's just because it knows what the audio should be, and it's just the same as if I normalized it, but it's not something I use a lot, and it seems pretty fine. Crossfade, I never use because I prefer to just do that kind of stuff manually, so I don't really know how good those are. Delay, also something I don't use very much, but I don't imagine it's something that's pretty hard to mess up, so I'm sure it's fine. Just say I installed Audacity 3.0 without removing the last version of Audacity, so that's why I have multiple of certain plugins. The high pass filter and low pass filter are both great. I'm a big fan of those. They do what they're supposed to do, and they have plenty of settings. Crush is a third party that I added, so don't worry about that. I don't use the limiter. I don't use the noise gate. I really don't understand the noise gate. I read the manual. I messed around with all of the settings, and I couldn't get it to do pretty much anything. So do with that what you will. Notch filter, that's another one that I just didn't really touch because I don't know exactly what it does. SC4, I opened this and I was like, this looks incredibly complicated, and the one time that I tried to use it, I just created, I don't even know what it was, so I haven't had a need for anything that I can't achieve with other plugins. Maybe it's really useful, I'm not sure. The Spectral Tools, I would like to see all of these get an entire revamp with the new kind of way that Audacity is going to function. They're fine as they are, like they're passable, they're okay, but I would love to see some more user-friendly spectral editing. The spectral delete is fine, but the rest of them, you have to actually go into your preferences and make adjustments there, and then that will decide what it does in the editor. And which I don't even remember how you do that right this second, but point being, it's just not super efficient, and I've gotten them to work, but I don't like them very much. Studio fade out, I haven't used. I don't know if it's better than normal fade out. Tremolo, also haven't used. I don't like it very much. I feel like that one could be improved. I've tried to use it and it just didn't give me the results that I wanted. Vocal reduction and isolation is fine. I think that it could use, if I remember correctly, when I have, oh, not silence. Let's just generate some white noise. Obviously there's no vocals in that, but yeah. I think that this could have a couple more settings to make it a little more customizable, because getting the wavelengths that you want is a little bit tricky. And I also think that if you could maybe piggyback on some of the code from the noise reduction plugin and incorporate it into this, maybe it is in there, it just doesn't seem to function in quite the same way. When I've used it, I haven't noticed similar results, so I'm assuming that it doesn't. Vocal remover, I think that's an old plugin. I think that it's consolidated now, but if I'm wrong, then I just haven't used it. Vocoder, I like the vocoder. I think that's another one where you could potentially have multiple vocoders. The one thing that I don't like about it, and I haven't used vocoders in other DAWs, so I don't know if this is an Audacity thing or if this is just a vocoder thing, but some of the settings only apply to the right channel of a stereo track, and it would be nice if I could apply them to both, but everything else is fine. It's a pretty decent vocoder. I think potentially having a secondary one would be nice that just has a little more customization, but I would like the current one to stay as is. I wouldn't like it to be edited. I'd just like to add. So that's just kind of my rundown of all of the effects that I use. Otherwise, the analyzers are great. The tools I don't really use. There's very few that I would use, but then the rest of them are just a little complicated. Obviously, there's Nyquist prompt that if you want to try to use like their programming language, you can. I'm not a programmer. I'm not going to learn that stuff. Otherwise, everything else is pretty great. So this has been my kind of analysis of Audacity moving forward and the additions that I would like to see. I hope you all have found this informative, and make sure and comment down below what additions you would like. There's a very slim chance that I'll put his name on screen, I swear. I'm blanking on the guy's name that's in charge of it now. Very slim chance that he's gonna see my video, but if he were to, these are the things that I'll just go ahead and represent the Audacity horror sound design community there, because I'm pretty sure it's a pretty niche group. This is what I would like to be added into it for the work that I do. And obviously I do more than horror, but that's kind of my shtick at this point. So anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure and to like and subscribe. I do uploads weekly on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. I've been doing a lot more tutorials on how you can get your sound design career started in Audacity for 100% free. I just want to get the information out there and let people know that you don't need money to pursue your dreams. So, God, that was way cornier than it sounded in my head. Anyway, gonna end this video before I get more cringe. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.